What's up, y'all? Welcome to LHPM Live. My name is Colton. I'm the student pastor here at Living Hope Church. It is good to be with some of you in person, which is where I'm sitting with some of you right now. And then those of you at Emma Stouffer's house with Kyle and Emma hanging out there. I'm grateful that y'all are watching with us. And if you're just watching online or you just happen to tune in and you have no idea what you're watching, welcome. We're thrilled that you're here and grateful to again, just to have you with us in this particular way. I wanted to let you know about United coming up. In July 27th through the 31st. We're full right now. Our trip is full. We can't take any more people, but we're really, really excited that it's full, and we're looking forward to going on that trip. I wanted to let you know just a few things about what's going on in the world as it pertains to Florida, which is where the trip is. Right now, all the things that are happening, all the craziness in Florida is really in the bigger cities like Miami and stuff like that. So we are in contact with the retreat center every week, calling them, talking to them, and asking, what's it look like? How are the other groups going through? Is everything being successful? What are you guys doing to take cautionary measures and things like that? And what they've told us basically is that all of the groups that have gone through so far, everything's gone really well. They have taken precautionary measures, cleanliness and sanitizing and separating groups and things like that. They've done all those things, and to their knowledge, there hasn't been any kind of outbreak or any kind of case that was actually developed from students actually attending that particular retreat center. So they are doing everything possible to maintain safety and cleanliness and all of those things, and we're going to be doing that as well. So right now, they say we're all good, the retreat center is good, and they're looking forward to having us late July. So I just wanted to let you know about that. And I also wanted to just let you see a little bit of what happened last year, just to let you get excited about what's coming up this year. So take a look at this video.
Go now, as you are or as you want to be. Are you ready? Are you ready? Go now, tired, broken, scared, or just in need. Ready or not, it's alright. Take your time, if nothing else, just come.
All right, so that was United 2019, and man, we are really hopeful and prayerful that we will be able to make some new memories this year with the crowd that we got. I think we're taking 60 people, so it's just going to be a gift to be there with you. Got our own space, our own pool, basketball court, our own space on the beach, cafeteria, everything is ours. We're separated from everybody, so we're really, really excited about that. So I hope you're excited too. Let me pray for us, and then Hannah and the worship team are going to lead us into worship. So y'all pray with me. Father, thank you for an opportunity to teach your word in this particular way. Lord, this season of life can consistently be stressful and can consistently lead us to chaos because it's confusing and we don't know what the next day brings, we don't know what the next month brings, and all of those things. But God, you say that you still rule and reign from your throne. You are still sovereign and in control over the surging seas, over the mountains, over all of your creation, and over everything that's happening in our world right now. And so, God, I pray that as we worship you, as we lift our eyes back to our King, that the chaos, the confusion, the distraction, and the things that are going on in our own hearts and minds, in our families and in our world, God, I pray that all of those things that are taking shape in our lives, as we worship you and fix our eyes on you, I pray that everything else will fade away in comparison to the greatness of beholding Jesus and singing to him and worshiping him, reminding ourselves that, God, you are a mighty, powerful God who leads with love and with faithfulness, and your goodness and your good towards us never ends. And God, I just pray that that would be something that happens as we seek to worship you and as we seek to study your word today. We ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Hey guys, I'm excited to worship with y'all tonight. Whether you're at our watch parties or you're at home with your family, I just want to encourage you to stand up while you worship. I know that helps me to just kind of engage a little bit more. So my encouragement to you is just be real. Wherever you are, he already kind of knows how y'all are doing. But I think he appreciates just our honesty and being real and just pouring out our heart to him. So at some point while we worship, I want to encourage you to do that. So before we begin, I was going to share that yesterday Colton asked me, he said, "How are you and God doing?" And it kind of threw me off. I wasn't expecting it, but it made me realize, it reminded me of a long time ago. This probably dates me, but whenever I was in high school, people had the DTRs, like the define the relationship talks, where we like figure out, are we on the same page? What's happening here? And so when he asked me that, I realized I haven't slowed down to really just think about how I am with God in a while. And I feel like that should probably be a weekly thing, especially if I'm leading worship. So it was good. And I realized there's days where I am so busy and just, I feel like when you start worship, it's good to just, if you haven't checked in with him, if you haven't talked to God at all throughout the day, like worship is our time to connect with him. Like before we hear the word, before Colton teaches, like it's our time to just be real with him. If you haven't talked to him in a while, be honest and say, "God, I miss your voice. I'm sorry I haven't talked to you in a while." Or maybe you feel like y'all are super close and you talk to him all day long, just be like, "Hey, it's good to be here with you again." I don't know, just have those moments. I love the corporate aspect of worship, but sometimes it's good too to just kind of close your eyes and just talk to him privately and connect with him and pour out your heart to him. So let's worship. Okay. 1, 2. Oh, la 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 la. Oh, la 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 la. Oh, la 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 la. Oh, la 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 la. Spirit fall down, start a holy riot. Fill this place now with tongues of fire. Break the strongholds, come and unleash heaven. Burn within us, make us bold as lions. not be moved. We will praise you till we see your kingdom. Greater things surely coming. You are God. You are on the move. You are on the move. Oh, this is our revival anthem again. You feel the darkness shaking. Oh, we are the dry bones rising. This will be a great awakening. This is our revival. We're going to read from Psalm 113 tonight from the Message version. It says, "Hallelujah, you who serve God, praise God. Just to speak his name is praise. Just to remember God is a blessing now and tomorrow and always. From east to west, from dawn to dusk, keep lifting all your praises to God. God is higher than anything and anyone, outshining everything you can see in the skies. Who can compare with God, our God, so majestically enthroned, surveying his magnificent heavens and earth?" I love that. I love that I feel like it just lifts my eyes up and my gaze to where my focus is on him. And it reminds me of how big he is and how small I am. So as we sing this next song, we're just going to dwell on his greatness and meditate on his bigness, so we don't have to try to be in control because he is in control. And we don't have to have it all together because he does. So we can just rest in his hands. We can lay our anxieties at his feet. We can lay our stress, our worries, our fears just at his feet and just take a deep breath and rest in him. So let's sing about his greatness. You give life. You are love. You bring light to the darkness. You give hope. You restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord. Sing that again. You give life. You are love. You bring light to the darkness. You give hope. You restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our our love, you bring light to the darkness. You give hope, you restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out all the earth. And all the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. All the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. All the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. Let's just end by singing. Great are you, Lord. Great are you, Lord. You're so great, God. You're so great. You're high above us, God. Your ways are higher. Your thoughts are higher, God. We don't always understand what's happening, but God, I think that we can trust you. We can put our lives in your hands because we know that you're in control, God. Lately, I just find myself, I feel like every night, just the sunset just brings me out of my house, out of what I'm doing. It's just distractingly beautiful. The skies, the clouds, everything lately has just been so beautiful. But even with all that, nothing compares with your beauty. Nothing compares. None of that compares with your glory, God. We thank you for giving us life. Thank you for this the air that you've given us in our lungs to sing out your praise, God. May we never take it for granted, God. Pray that your name was blessed tonight as we worship together, God. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
All right, y'all. Well, again, my name is Colton, student pastor here. We are in a series right now called Charismata, which means grace gift. And if you don't know this already or you haven't been joining us, basically, when you become a follower of Jesus, when someone turns from their sin and says, I don't want to live this life of sin anymore, I want to turn and follow Jesus away from my sin, basically what happens is the Holy Spirit fills us, which is just a gift of his grace in general, that we're filled with the presence of God, and the very Spirit of God is filling us. But then it also comes with another gift, not only the gift of salvation and the gift of a relationship with Jesus, but rather, on top of that, we're also gifted with a gift as well, just a grace gift, not something that we earned, not something that we conjured up on our own. It's not something we're naturally talented with. So if you're naturally talented in sports or in music or anything like that, it's not that thing. It's not something you're naturally gifted at. It's not a strength of yours. If you just have a way with people, you're an extrovert, and you're like, maybe that's my spiritual. It's not like that. A grace gift is literally something that you weren't born with. It's not something that you had already. It's something that when you became a follower of Jesus, you were given a gift. And so what we've been talking about over the last couple of weeks is looking at Romans 12 and looking at a number of different gifts, not all of the gifts, but a number of different gifts that the Apostle Paul references when he says that, hey, these are grace gifts. These are spiritual gifts that happen in the lives of other people. And so we'll be looking at 7 of them total. And today we're going to be looking at the gift actually of giving, and we're going to be looking at that. So the teaching text for today is, again, from Romans 12. Beginning in verse 6, it says, we have different gifts according to the grace given to each of us. If your gift is prophesying, then prophesy in accordance with your faith. If it is serving, then serve. If it is teaching, then teach. If it is to encourage, then give encouragement. And if it is giving, then give generously. This is the word of the Lord. The reason we're looking at these things, one is because in my experience in churches and my experience with some of you and other students, like no one really knows what spiritual gifts are. And so we want to talk about those things. But more specifically to us and our ministry here at Living Hope, our student ministry, what we are doing here is because we actually want you guys to understand specifically that you actually have a gift in your body, in your heart, in your spirit, in your soul that was given by the Holy Spirit that ultimately you can tap into in order to build up other people around you and other people in the church. And we don't want to be a ministry that's solely functioning on my gifts or the gifts of Kyle Sumner or Andrew Banker or Emma Stouffer, Sean Darnell, Hannah. No, all of the people and all of our volunteers that we have, we love their gifts, but we don't want to be a student ministry that's based on the gifts of just a couple. When we have 75 students here on a Wednesday night, we want everybody in that room to know that you each have a gift that you need to press into in order to experience the fulfillment of what it's supposed to look like to follow Jesus in your own right, but then also to press into that gift so that the people in the church actually experience the gifts of the Lord and actually experience the presence of God in real time in their lives. Because it's true that you have a gift that I don't have, and that you're able to actually minister and to help other people and to build other people up that I'm not able to do because I'm not gifted in the same way that you are. And so we've been doing this series for this reason, so that you would understand very specifically, here's what my gift set is, here's what the Spirit has gifted me with, and here's how I can go about using it to build up those around me and those within our ministry. And so that's what we want to do for you. So today we're looking at the gift of giving and giving generously. I've heard a couple stories about giving that I really love. 2 of them. One is from John Maxwell, this leadership writer, but he talks about Arnold Palmer, who is a golfer, or at least he was a golfer, and he passed away in the last couple of years. But a professional golfer, a Hall of Fame golfer, and really, really good on the PGA Tour. And one of the things that he would do is he'd travel and he'd play golf at different places. And one day he was traveling in the Middle East somewhere, and he played golf in some golf course where the sheik was there to play golf with him, and watched him play golf, and it was this wonderful time. And at the end of the 18 holes of golf, Arnold Palmer was talking with the sheik, and the sheik asked him through an interpreter, asked him like, "What do you want? I'd love to give you a gift. What do you want?" And Arnold Palmer was like, "I don't want anything. Like, I don't need anything. I don't want anything. Like, this is just a gift to play on your course. It's great. I don't want to." And the interpreter was like, "It's really rude for you to not receive a gift from the sheik, and so you need to say something." And so Arnold Palmer thought for a second. He's like, I don't know. Like, just buy me a golf club. A golf club would be great. And, y'all know what golf clubs are. There's a driver, there's a pitching wedge, there's irons, there's things like that. And so he's thinking, just buy me a golf club. And so the sheik is like, "Great, that sounds great." And then the next day, everybody goes to their hotel. It's totally fine. The next day, the sheik meets with Arnold Palmer and hands him a sheet of paper that he's like, "I asked for a golf club. This is a sheet of paper." But what it was actually, it was the deed to an actual golf club, like the entire golf course. Like the sheik heard, "I want a golf club," and went somewhere, bought an entire golf course, an entire golf club, and gives it to Arnold Palmer. And now that is, you didn't get like just one club, you got an entire set of holes and an entire course for yourself. And he went out and bought him that. And I love that story of giving because I think in so many different ways, like when we're dealing with this idea of giving generously, the sheik gave generously to this man. He gave generously to Arnold Palmer. He's like, "I just want like a single golf club that I could say I got in the Middle East, and you bought me an entire course." And then the second story that I heard was really interesting, was about 2 different church planters who were meeting with an investor, somebody that was going to invest in the church plant. And the first guy goes in and he's talking to the investor and trying to pitch the idea of his church. And the guy eventually hears his idea and the investor says to him like, hey, how much money do you need to start your church? How much money would you like me to give you? And the guy thinks for a second and he's like, I don't know. I think it'd be, a couple $100 here, a couple $100 there. Like, I think if you just gave us like $1,000 or so, I think we'd be in good shape. And the guy's like, so you want $1,000? He's like, yeah, I think $1,000 would be a good start. And so the guy straight up writes the check, hands him $1,000, and the man leaves. And then another church planner goes in, and they're sitting there. The same question is asked. He pitches the idea of his church. Same question is asked, how much money do you need to start your church? And this guy's like, man, I need $1 million. That's how much money I need. And the guy is sitting there. The investor is sitting there, and all of a sudden he takes his checkbook out and he writes a check for $1 million and gives it to him. And the church planners on the way out, as they bump into each other and things like that, they are talking a little bit about their experience with the investor. And somehow it gets brought up that like this guy's like, yeah, I got $1,000. I think that's a good start for me. And the other guy's like, man, I got $1 million. I think it'd be a great start for me. And the guy who got $1,000 was confused. He's like, why didn't he give me $1,000? And the guy who got the $1 million was like, what did you ask for? And he's like, I asked for $1,000. And he's like, yeah, I asked for the $1 million, so I got the $1 million. And so I love the idea that every now and then you're around people who just have the gift of giving. They just want to do that. That's something that they want to do. And if it's $1,000, if it's $1 million, whatever it is, if it's a golf club, if it's actually one club or an actual golf course, I love that idea. And in many ways, what Paul is talking about here is not necessarily a financial way of giving and things like that, but it is something as substantial as people just excited and about the idea and the gift of giving. They're just excited about it. And so what I want to deal with today is talk about what this really looks like for you in your own life and how it works for us. So what is the gift of giving that Paul is talking about? The Greek word is metadidomai, or didomi. And it means to give a part of yourself. So it's not necessarily financial, although a part of yourself is how much money you have and that kind of thing. So to give a part of yourself could include financial aspects of life. It could include material things like that, but could also include things like your time and things like that. But giving in this particular way of thinking, what Paul uses is this word, metadidomai. And the idea that this word exists, it only exists 5 places in the New Testament. And I'm going to read 4 of them really, but just to give some background on what it means. But in John the Baptist answers and says, anyone who has 2 shirts should share, which is the metadidomai, should share with the one who has none. And anyone who has food should do the same. And so again, the idea is to give of yourself. You have some clothes, you have 2 shirts, give one. You have some food, it's of yourself, give some to them, share with them. Romans 1:11, Paul says, for I am longing to see you, that I may share with you some spiritual gift of mine to strengthen you. And so he wants to share something in him. Paul has spiritual gifts in and of himself, and he wants to share those with other people and use those in other people's lives to strengthen them, to give of himself in that way. Ephesians 4:28, he says, thieves, as they become followers of Jesus, they need to give up stealing. Rather, let them labor and work honestly with their own hands so as to have something to share with the needy. And so something could be you work for food, you get food and you share it with the needy. You work for money, you get money and you share it with the needy. And then I think this last verse, 1 Thessalonians 2:8, describes this word in the best possible way. But Paul says, so deeply we care for you that we are determined to share with you not only the gospel of God, but also our own selves. And so in many ways, what Paul is saying here is like, yes, we want to share with you, but not just the gospel, although that is substantial and that's a part of us, that we've been shaped by the gospel. We want to see that happen, but we also share not just the gospel, we share a part of our own souls, a part of our own lives, a part of our own selves. And Paul gets to this idea of expressing this pretty substantially in a way that's saying like, it's actually giving of yourself, giving something substantially of yourself, sharing something of yourself. And again, it's not necessarily money, although it can be that. It's not necessarily material things like clothing, although it can be that. It's not necessarily some of those things that we would naturally think that we need to give like a tithe to the church or an offering to the church, although again, it can be some of those things. Paul talks about it as like this actually giving of our entire selves, our entire lives, giving something of yourself and sharing it with other people. So you actually see this happen and take place in the early church. Acts 4:32 through 35 says this is what the disciples did.
in this particular time. All the believers were one in heart and mind. No one claimed that any of their possessions was their own, but they held everything in common. And that's the idea. They held everything in common. With great power, the apostles continued to testify to the resurrection of the Lord Jesus, and God's grace was so powerfully at work in them all that there were no needy persons among them. And then look at what it says. It says, from time to time, those who owned land or houses sold them, brought the money from the sales, and put it at the apostles' feet, and it was distributed to anyone who had need. People who have this spiritual gift, people who are experiencing this, and the early church experienced this in so many ways, but they did not claim something that this is mine, I have rights to this is mine. Rather, everything was held in common, and it's like, we can just give this away to whoever. It's a piece of me, it's a part of me, but we're giving this away to anyone who has need. And so much so that they saw it as even their property, even their homes, even their anything that belonged to them in general that cost something, they would sell it and then use that money to be given to the poor and given to the needy and anyone who had need. They were sharing of themselves to those around them. So that's the idea that Paul's trying to get at here. Metadidomai is that idea, is that it's not giving something away like that, but it's rather giving something of yourself. And that's what it means. So people who have this gift don't necessarily, I think it's important, people who have the spiritual gift don't necessarily have a lot to give, but they have a strong desire to give and are willing to sacrifice in order to give to others. So they don't necessarily have to have a lot to give. It's not like Paul's only referencing like you have the spiritual gift if you have a lot of money, or you have the spiritual gift if you have a lot of stuff, or you have the spiritual gift if you have a lot of property to sell and then in order to give that money. So it has nothing to do with that. Because it's giving of yourself, it's not necessarily, you might have a lot of stuff, but it's not necessarily that. It's just that you just know in your heart and in your being, like I have a strong desire. When I see people in need, I want to give of myself in order to meet that need. They have a strong desire to do it, and they're willing to sacrifice from themselves to someone else and to say, I see your need, I want to go in compassion and meet your need. We see this in two ways. One, there's a pastor, author, theologian that I really, really love. His name is Brennan Manning. And if you ever get your hands on a Brennan Manning book, read it. It's so good. But he, at one time in his life, ended up leaving the ministry and leaving some of the things that he was doing and went and lived somewhere in Louisiana in a leper colony. And lepers, at that particular time, they were outcast from society. People didn't want them. They were excluded from their families because they didn't really know how to cure it and things like that. And he went and lived among the lepers in that particular time in order to just be among them and to serve them and to be kind to them and to befriend them and to love them, because they had nobody that would care for them other than people who were also filled with leprosy and had that issue. And so he just wanted to go and give of himself and actually live among the people. He didn't give them any money. It wasn't anything like that. He just served them and cared for them because nobody else was. And he had this gift, the spiritual gift of like, I just want to give of myself to these people. I want to give of my friendship to them. I want to give of my love, my care. I want to give it to them. And one of the most substantial people who've lived like this, realistically, is Mother Teresa. And if you don't know anything about Mother Teresa, go Google Mother Teresa and find out something about this lady. She didn't die all that long ago. I think it was like 1997 that she passed away. But she was a Roman Catholic nun and missionary, and she was incredible at doing this. And it was just the gift that she had that was given from the Spirit. She went and lived in India, and she lived among the poor, the outcast, the sick, lepers themselves, people who had AIDS and HIV, people who were just cast out from society, and like nobody wants them. They're dying in the streets. Nobody has anything for them. And she started organizations and orphanages and all this stuff for these people, but not just to start it. She lives over here, but she started these really cool things over there. She wanted to live among the people, give of herself so substantially that she actually left where she was to live among the people and to experience what they experienced, to see the poverty that they experience. And one of the things that she said is, she's like, I didn't realize how the poor experienced their poverty until I actually moved into it. And now I'm not necessarily poor, but I'm experiencing the poverty that they do. I know more substantially what they go through and all those things because she actually moved in and lived into it. And so in many ways, both these people shared their lives, again, befriending these people, loving these people, and caring for them, giving of their lives to them. And it wasn't financial resources, although it did include some of those things. It wasn't primarily, clothing or anything like that. It was just giving of themselves, the care and the love and the support, giving of themselves to them. And in many ways, people like this, like Mother Teresa and like Brennan Manning, they gave in such a way that other people in their lives looked at them and said, like, you are actually giving to the point where it's unwise. And I think people who experience this gift and have the gift of giving, I think there will be times, many times in your life where people will come to you and be like, hey, if you give too much more, it might be unwise for you. It's seeming to actually be unwise for you to do some of these things right now. Are you thinking about your financial situation? Are you thinking about your future? Are you thinking about what could happen if you do that? But people who have the spiritual gift normally have people coming up to them and saying, we think you're giving too much. We think you're being unwise. And in some sense, I think sometimes it comes from a little bit of a pride aspect, like they're nervous, like maybe I'm not giving enough. I mean, they're giving a ton, and that's making me look bad. And so I want to try and encourage them not to do as much so that I don't look as bad. But then in other ways, I do think from family members and people who love those people, they come up to them and say, like, this is dangerous for you. I think you're being unwise. And in many ways, they're like, this is what I'm called to do. This is what the Spirit has gifted me to do. And I'm seeking to serve and to give my life away in order for them to actually experience the hope and the love of Jesus. So it leads us to our next point, the power of giving, the power of giving. In the spiritual gift of giving, in giving generously to other people, of giving of yourself, one of the most powerful things about it is that people get to see the generosity of God. When they see you giving of yourself, and when they see someone spirit empowered giving of themselves, they actually see what a giving, generous God we have. Because ultimately, if the gift comes from the Spirit and they're empowered by the Spirit to give, they're actually able to see God in real time giving something to them. And they're going, why are you doing this? And their answer is because I've actually experienced a generous and giving God who's given me something. Not only this gift, but he's given me all kinds of things. And so I'm able to live out of that. And so one of the powers of giving is that you give the opportunity for people to see God in real time and make it visible. Jesus says this, he says, the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give, which is didomai. It's the root word of the metadidomai, and to give his life as the ransom for many. And in so many ways, this is what Jesus is saying, is like, this is why I came here. I did not come to be served, but to serve and to give my life for the ransom of many. And so in many ways, when Christians seek to, under the power of the Holy Spirit, to give their life away and to give a portion of their life to other people, you're ultimately seeing in some small way what Jesus actually did and accomplished on the cross and giving his life for the ransom of many people. The Apostle Paul had this gift, the spiritual gift of giving. And we actually see that because he talks about that, a spiritual gift that I want to impart to you, I want to share with you. To the Thessalonians, he's like, I actually want to share my life with you, and we did that. The Apostle Paul had this gift in his own right, in his own heart that the Spirit had given him. And we see that consistently because he's like, when he was sharing the gospel with people, he could actually be paid by doing that. He's like a worker is worth his wages. I could preach and I could ask for payment. But many times he would preach and not ask for payment. Rather, he'd wake up at dawn and start doing normal work, not preaching, anything like that, just going to a job, doing his work until evening, and then preaching when he could fit it in. And what he wanted to do is he didn't want to be a burden to anybody. And so he would work and do his work in order to serve the people and give of himself, not only physically, but then he'd also share the gospel with them. And it makes sense that his ministry, the Apostle Paul's ministry, was so substantial and so successful, not just because the Spirit was blessing and guiding what he was doing, but in so many ways, they were seeing this in real time. He was talking about a gospel. He was talking about good news of a God who gives generously, unconditional love, unconditional grace. This God that the Apostle Paul was talking about gives unconditionally to those who receive him. And then when they watched Paul actually live out his life, not only did they hear the gospel from him, but they saw it happening in real time. They saw Paul actually giving his life away and giving his resources away physically and ultimately through the speaking of the gospel. They saw him do that. And so when he talked about here's who God is, and then they saw the way that Paul served them, they were like, your God makes so much sense. We actually see him every single day. You make him visible to us. You talk about the power of the gospel and this Jesus who came and gave his life as a ransom for many. And then we see you giving your life away and a part of your life away to us as well. And it makes sense that when he talks about something as substantial as Jesus giving his life away, it makes sense that they received it because they saw it in his life. He had the gift of giving. The second reason it's so powerful is that giving heals the world. Giving heals the world. In Jesus giving his life for the ransom for many,
giving his life away as the ransom for many brought about. This is what happened. Jesus gave his life away as the ransom for many, and peace was brought about where there was chaos, Romans 5:1. We were made into new creation, 2 Corinthians 5:17. We were broken and are now healed. These are all the things that happened because of what Jesus did, giving his life away. We were broken and now we're healed, Isaiah 53:5. The punishment that brought us peace was upon him. By his wounds we are healed. We were sinful and now we are righteous, 2 Corinthians 5:21. We were enslaved and now we're set free. All creation was groaning under the weight of sin, and Jesus will bring about renewal, Romans 8:21. Where relationships were irreconcilable, now reconciliation is possible. I mean, when I say that, like, this is what happened, giving actually heals the world, you actually see this in real time. You see Jesus who gave his life for a ransom for many. And then you see all of the outcomes of that. Things that were broken are now healed. Where there was only chaos, now there's peace. Where there was destruction, now there will be renewal. There will be restoration. There will be all of those things. Because someone chose to give their life away, it ultimately brought about such healing in the world that now we're able to actually be a part of. We're actually able to experience what that looks like, to actually live that out and then bring about healing in the lives of other people. Yes, through sharing the gospel and allowing them to see that, like, hey, you're broken in sin and there's healing that's available to you. You're enslaved to sin and there's freedom that's available to you. Yes, through that, but also through the financial resources that we give and the clothes that we give and the other things that we are able to give, the time that we give to other people. Giving our life away ultimately heals the world, and we're mimicking and modeling what Jesus has done for us. And so many of you have actually experienced that in your own lives. Where there was chaos, now there's peace. Where there was no hope, now there's hope in your life. When you're dealing with something that's tragic and difficult, what would have happened before Jesus would have just set you off and it led you into a bad place. But now that you know Jesus, you can experience tragedy and chaos. You can experience those things and actually have peace in the midst of the storm. And so many times, like, what the reason that's available is because somebody chose to give their life away for you so that you can actually experience a relationship with the God of the universe who's for you, protecting you, and consistently bringing about good things for you. So, what do we need to share with others? What should we, if you have this gift, and realistically, this is one of those things, like we've talked about with so many of these gifts, we're all called to give in some form or fashion. If you have a job, you should tithe. You should give your resources to the church. And I know that you could say, like, oh, I don't see tithing in the New Testament. Right, I know that's an Old Testament idea, but what actually you see in the New Testament is to give more of yourself away, give more of your resources away, not just 10%, a tithe. And so we're all called to do this in some particular way. And so everything that I'm going to talk about here of what we should share with others, what should we give of ourselves to others, all of us should be doing that. But if you have this particular gift of giving that Paul clearly says, like, this is something very different. You have the gift of, like, this strong desire. You see the needs in other people's lives. You have a strong desire to do it, and you do not mind sacrificing in order to give to other people. If that is constantly where your heart is and where your mind goes, and you're filled with compassion for other needs of other people's lives, my encouragement to you is just to, here's some things that I would encourage you to share with others. The first is, yes, our material things. I was at a playground with my kid 2 years ago, I think, and we were sitting there. One of my friends was there, and it was by a school, and we saw these, just fifth graders or something like that were swinging and hanging out and that kind of thing. And my son Teddy was playing, and anyways, we were just chatting and having a good time. But one of the kids that we saw, the other boy was making fun of his shoes because when he walked, the front of his shoe would come down every time, and you could see that I don't know what it's called, the sole of the shoe was actually separated on both shoes. So every time he walked, it sounded like flip-flops, even though he was wearing real shoes. And it was cold outside. And I remember seeing that and hearing the kid making fun of him, and I hated that and whatever. But then my friend basically just walked over, and I thought he was going to be mad at the kid that was making fun of him. I thought he was going to say something or smack him. He was on the swings. I thought he was going to kick him down off the swings or something. But he's a Christian, so he didn't do any of that. Rather, what he did is he looked at the kid and he was like, "Hey, what size shoe do you wear?" And the kid was like, "I wear a size 10. And he's like, "Oh, cool, me too." And he takes off his shoes and he gives his shoes to that kid. And then the kid has no idea what's happening, but he knows that his shoes are garbage. So he kicks them off, throws them in the trash can that's right there, and puts on those shoes. And then my friend is standing right beside me with no shoes. It's 40 degrees outside. No shoes on, and he never said a word to me. He just walked over there, did that, walked back, and was like, "So, what's going on with you, man?" And I was blown away by that. But in so many ways, I was like, it filled his heart. That's what he wanted to do. He saw a need and he just met it. And he's filled with this spiritual gift of giving where he just sees a need in compassion for somebody who's getting picked on for their shoes. And he just didn't want that to happen anymore. And so he walks over and goes, we wear the same size shoes, you take mine. I love that. I know people who tip their waitresses after they get to know them, or their waiters or waitresses, they get to know them, they hear about their story a little bit, or they see about the hard day that they're having, and they'll give them like hundreds of dollars of tips instead. So they spent something, bought enough food for $20 or something, you're supposed to tip like $4 on that or something like that. And instead of tipping $4, he tips $200. And so the bill ends up being like $240, and the waitress walks out with a $200 tip. That's just incredible. People who are filled with this gift, giving material things. I have a friend in California who he does this pretty consistently with Uber drivers. And the only reason I know this is because I've seen it happen. They don't brag about it. They're not doing that. And we'll get to that in just a second. But a friend of mine in California, when he takes Uber rides or Lyft rides or things like that, he likes to strike up conversations with the people. And he's given a $1,000 tip to some of his Uber drivers or some of his Lyft drivers, just based on hearing his story and hearing, like, why are you driving Lyft? Do you have another job? Why are you doing this? It's like, oh, you're trying to raise money for your kid to go to the private school or to get into college, or you're trying to support your family who's, your father's ill or things like that. And so he hears a story, stirred with compassion, and goes, and just tips the guy $1,000. And it's like that kind of thing. People just imparting and giving of themselves. And I realize all of those in many ways were material things, but that's the idea. What are the things we are to share of ourselves? Well, our material things, our finances, and the stuff that we own, the stuff that is a part of us in some way. We should be doing that. I love what Henry Nouwen says about compassion. He says, compassion asks us to go where it hurts, to enter into the places of pain, to share in brokenness, fear, confusion, and anguish. Compassion challenges us to cry out with those in misery, to mourn with those who are lonely, to weep with those in tears. Compassion requires us to be weak with the weak, vulnerable with the vulnerable, and powerless with the powerless. Compassion means full immersion in the condition of being human. And I think in so many ways, when I think of those friends of mine who I aspire to be and to be like in so many ways, like they are filled with compassion when they see these people that are hurting, and they just enter into it and they say, I'm here, I can do something in the midst of this. Filled with the spiritual gift of giving, see a need, and just filled with compassion, go and meet it. And in so many ways, how significant is that? How much is that like our Savior Jesus, who did the exact same thing? It wasn't that he was losing something in heaven. He had riches in heaven. It wasn't something that he was lacking something in heaven that led him to come down here. He was like, well, I'm lacking that. I got to go down there and get that thing for myself. It wasn't that. Rich and full in heaven, enjoying the Trinity, the God, the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. I just said God, Father, that sounded weird. But God, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, enjoying that. But rather, he sees our need, and he sees our pain, and he sees all of those things, and he enters in full immersion of the condition of being human. That's exactly what he did. Not in order to get something for himself, but to do something for us, to ransom and redeem those who are in pain. Second thing we need to do is what we need to share with others is time. Time. We need to spend time in conversations with people that are difficult to have conversations with. We need to share of our time in praying for other people when we hear of their needs. Take the time to pause and to pray for them and to intercede for them. Time to listen to the hurts of others. Time in our specific culture, right here, right now, giving time to something is more valuable in many ways than money. And you see this in so many different things because people would rather give $10 to somebody on the street rather than actually get to know the person on the street, or to give $1 or so to some kind of orphanage or something like that rather than actually go and serve in the orphanage, or to pay more money to hire somebody within a church in order to escape from actually doing any kind of volunteer work in the church. So often time is actually held as like that is the most valuable commodity in our day right now. And people are much more willing to give money to something and throw money at a problem rather than to give time to the problem. And what Paul does and what he talks about in this spiritual gift of giving is he actually recognizes, like, I know that's true, but a part of this spiritual gift of giving is giving of our time, giving of yourself. Yes, your material things, but also your lives, your very lives, your time, and giving it to people. Third, we need to be willing to share with others anything that will build up others. And so if this is forgiveness, if this is patience, if this is kindness, compassion, if whatever that is, that would actually build somebody up. you do not have the spiritual gift of giving, and it releases you from, and it's not including forgiveness, it's not including, it's like, no, it includes all of those things. And the idea is that you would be more readily willing to actually give forgiveness and give patience and give kindness and do all these things because you actually have the spiritual gift of giving of yourself to build up the people that are around you. And so in many ways, we need to be searching for those things and going, what are the needs of people? Oh, they need patience. I'm going to give that to them because I have the spiritual gift of giving. And all of us should do that in many ways. But you should lead in that way because it is something that is a disposition, or not a disposition, but a wonderful gift that you have, that you're actually able to see the need and then move in and actually meet that need. Okay, one warning. And Paul gives this to us as well, the warning. He says, if your gift is giving, then give generously. Another way, a better way of understanding this is to give single-mindedly. That's actually how the word comes to bear in the Greek. Single-mindedly, meaning don't give with the idea that you might get something in return. Give single-mindedly. You just want to give because you want to meet a need. I want to give to help those in need. Single-mindedly thinking about the person in need, not what you could get out of it. And Paul is telling them, if you have this gift, it's a warning that it's easy to not give single-mindedly. It's easy to give somebody something and then to receive praise. They thank you for it. They tell their friends, and their friends come to you and be like, hey, I heard what you did for so-and-so. I just want to say thank you for that. That's amazing that you did that. It's super easy to give with a good heart, but then all of a sudden shift and go like, hey, I have this gift of giving, and I notice that when I do it, people love me for it. And so I think I'm just going to do it more in order to get the thing. And so what Paul would say is like, you're not actually doing it single-mindedly now. You're actually giving not just to give, you're giving to take. And so what Paul would say is like, if you're doing something for the accolades, for people to praise you, or if you're doing something to receive something in return, you're not giving, you're taking. And that's not good. And so it's just a warning to you if you have the spiritual gift of giving, or to all of us who seek to give. This is why Jesus would say, like, practice your righteousness in secret, not for the world to see. You're not doing it so that you will receive something. You're doing it single-mindedly. You're doing it because this is what the Spirit has gifted you with, and you just genuinely, like Jesus has helped the needy and ransomed the many, you want to do something to help the needy in order to reveal this is how God has treated me, and I want to treat you the same way so that you would ultimately see him. So, the question is, do you have this gift? A couple of questions for you to ask as you consider, do you have this gift? The first is, you might have this gift if you are constantly on the lookout and moved to compassion to give and share what you have with those around you. That's one question. Is that you? Are you constantly on the lookout for those things? Do you notice needs in people's lives more than others? Other people around you don't see it, but you happen to see a need in somebody's life. Do you see it? I don't know what that is, the Spirit opening your eyes to see other things, or you're just looking around, you're just more observant, or you're not as distracted. Maybe you're more distracted. Maybe you got ADD and you're constantly scanning the room for issues and things like that. We're not going to call it ADD, we're going to call it the Spirit, okay? So do you have this ability to see the needs in other people's lives more than other people do? And then do people sometimes think that you give so much that it's unwise? And I added this last one in just because I do think that if you are actively doing that, you probably have had people in your life come to you and say like, hey, you don't have to do that. Hey, that's probably too much. Hey, maybe that's unwise. Maybe you need to consider, you're just helping them stay in their problem. You're not actually doing anything to actually help them. And you'll have people do that. Oh, you just gave that homeless person money. You know he's going to use that to buy beer or cigarettes or something bad. And it's like people will come up to you and say it's unwise. So if this is you, do you have these gifts? Asking these questions, if this is you, that's great. What a gift that you have the gift of giving. The reason for it is so that the church is built up, not so that your position is built up, but so that the church is built up and so that people will ultimately, you're actually giving something to the church, but then that people ultimately around you and inside the church would see this is who God is. God is a person who gives generously, liberally, and he gives without wanting anything in return. This is who our God is, and the Spirit has gifted people inside of our ministry and inside of our church to do the exact same thing. And so as you talk about it in your small groups, consider these questions and consider, is this a gift that you have? And then talk to your leader about how this could actually be fleshed out in the life of our ministry and the life of those around you. So, love you guys. Let me pray. Father, I'm grateful that you have gifted our church. I'm grateful that you have gifted our students in so many different ways, that your Spirit has filled them and you've given them a gift of grace. God, I do pray specifically for those who have the spiritual gift of giving, who see the needs of those around them and that seek to meet those needs with compassion and with care. God, would you raise those people up? Would you give them a boldness to live out that particular gifting, to not see the needs of others and shun it or move it away or in trying to avoid it, but rather would you give them boldness? Would you give them a grace to stand up when they see the need to actually move forward and meet it? God, we need that in our ministry. We need it for people who are longing for friendship, who show up and don't have any friends. We need it for people who need help and compassion and just need somebody to love them. We need the people who are built in, spiritual gifted by the Spirit with this gift of giving. We need them to stand up and give of themselves in order to meet the needs in our ministry. And Lord, I just pray that you would do that. There are holes in our ministry, there are holes in our church, and there are holes in the world, Lord, that you long to fill with people with this gift. And so, God, I pray that they would see and notice their purpose in this world, and I pray that they would move in the power of the Spirit and ultimately towards those things in order to accomplish what you've called them to. We ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
I know it's easy to go about our day and we're just busy doing all these things. Sometimes, I know for me, I'll go a couple days without really realizing like, hey, are we good, me and God? So tonight, as you worship, even if you just close your eyes in the middle of it and just have a moment with him where you're honest. And if you haven't talked to him in a while, be like, God, I haven't talk to you, I miss you, or just be real with him and connect with him that way as we worship. Because I don't want to just ever go through the motions of we sing the song and we're not actually really connecting with him and pouring out our hearts to him. So wherever you are, maybe you feel like you and God are just so tight, or you just feel like you haven't heard his voice in a while and you feel like you just miss him. Be real and honest with him and share that with him tonight. You were the Word at the beginning, one with God the Lord Most High. Your hidden glory in creation, now revealed in you are Christ. What a beautiful name it is, what a beautiful name it is. The name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a beautiful name it is. Nothing compares to this. What a beautiful name it is. The name of Jesus. Didn't want heaven without us. Jesus, you brought heaven down. Just in this great love.
powerful name it is, the name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a powerful name it is, nothing can stand against. What a powerful name it is, the name of Jesus. Death could not hold you, the veil tore before you, silence the voice of sin and grave. The heavens are roaring, praise of your glory, for you are raised to life again. You have no rival, you have no equal, now and forever, God, you reign. Yours is the kingdom, yours is the glory, yours is the name above all names. What a powerful name it is, what a powerful name it is, the name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a powerful name it is, nothing can stand against. What a powerful name it is, the name of Jesus. What a powerful name it is, the name of Jesus. What a powerful name it is, the name of Jesus.
All right, y'all, I have one announcement that I wanted to let you know about before we sign off here. In LH Kids, they are redoing the floors, and they need some students to show up on Monday, next Monday, which I believe is July 13th. Next Monday, July 13th, they need some students to show up and help clean out the rooms and remove the chairs and the tables and stuff. It shouldn't take long. There's like 12 rooms, but we'd love for some of you students to actually show up and do that. So if you are interested in that, if you can do that, I would love to be here with you in order to help you. But we're going to meet here, I believe, at 12 o'clock on Monday, July 13th, in order to remove all those things. And then we'll also have lunch for you, and we can actually gather inside the church. It's kind of crazy. So if you want to do that, you can reach out to me. You can text me or reach out to one of your leaders. But that's Monday, July 13th, to help LH Kids in their ministry. Love you guys. We'll see you soon.